Clean and abundant water forever. This was the title of the last known plan for the aquifer in 1997. It's a good plan, but if you look inside, you will see we are not on track with its recommendations. In fact, we have drifted far afield from its aspirations. We formed Protect Our Aquifer at the beginning of 2017, and we found out fast no one was in charge. There was no aquifer sheriff in town. Let's start with what is the Memphis Sand Aquifer. The first thing to note is that we are part of a very large system. The Mississippi Embayment System lies underneath 8 states. The aquifer is actually a saturated layer of sand and silt confined by clay layers. Clay layers protect each layer of water-bearing soil, such as our deep drinking water aquifer, the Memphis Sand Aquifer. Here's a map of Shelby County showing all the known breaches in green, suspected breaches in yellow, and all the way over to the east, the recharge zone in gray, where the aquifer actually comes to the surface. Your 18 cents a month contribution on your water bill for the past 3 years is an effort to complete this map by the scientists at Caesar from the University of Memphis. Protect Our Aquifer was born challenging the quantity of water TVA was going to take out of the Memphis Sand Aquifer, 4 to 10 million gallons a day to cool their new gas power plant. In their original plan, however, TVA had proposed using the gray water from the nearby city's wastewater treatment plant. Without saying a word to the public, they scrapped that plan and dug 3 wells before the Sierra Club discovered and reported on their new plan, 5 deep wells into the drinking water to supply their cooling needs, approved by the health department, legal, but as we were to find out, a large lapse in judgment. The new gas plant is on the left. The old gas plant with its coal ash ponds is on the right. What you can't see right behind all this is the wastewater treatment plant. What eventually stopped TVA from using the wells was the downward pull of 5 deep wells adjacent to the coal ash ponds. TDEC, the state agency, ordered TVA to conduct a 24-hour pump test. What they found was the coal ash heavy metal contamination was being pulled into the upper polluted aquifer. And at the time, we found a breach that ran alongside the southeastern edge of the coal ash ponds. So if TVA had been left to pump their millions of gallons every day, the resulting connection would have pulled toxic heavy metals into the drinking water aquifer, the Memphis Sand Aquifer. So this is what it looks like underground. This simple drawing is much more complicated. There are 9 known contaminants there, but this gives you a good idea of the arsenic, fluoride, and lead plumes moving underground. There are contaminated sites all over Shelby County. Here are the plumes of the carrier plant, the yellow TCE, and the blue chromium-6 plume of the old Smalley Piper plant. This is a Superfund site and has been for 30 years. And to punctuate it all, here's a map that charts all the identified contaminated sites in Shelby County. The details of all this information can be accessed through TDEC's data viewer. And bad ideas coupled with no water sheriff threatens new sources of contamination. Here's the Nutbush neighborhood next to a large wetlands area alongside the Wolf River. The area acts as a flood reserve for the neighborhood, which flooded in 2011. A proposed landfill was to turn 80 of the acres here into a 50-foot-high mountain of construction debris. This was a bad idea in 2 ways: potential contaminants seeping into the aquifer, and larger flood events when water has no place to go. We put up our hand to object, along with about 250 residents of Nutbush, and literally drove the developer and his lawyer to abandon the idea. Call this a citizen's arrest, a neighborhood and a nonprofit stopping a terrible idea. So now let's turn to quantity. Here's an example that came up in August and still has not been resolved. Here's a fun Midtown fact. All of Wesson Oil is made in a factory just south of Lamar to the east of Bellevue. The Wesson Oil Refinery is a 70-year-old plant that pumps over 1 million gallons a day of our drinking water aquifer. They needed to replace an old well and asked to dig another. The Groundwater Board, in charge of such request, rightfully noted that this 1 million-plus gallons passed through the factory only one time and then was discharged to a ditch. One-time pass-through use is prohibited in the new well regulations, which Protect Our Aquifer had a hand in writing. Wesson was told to work with the health department to construct a closed-loop cooling water system that would recycle and conserve our aquifer water. But here's the problem. No one at the health department is a conservation expert, nor an industrial system designer, nor are there any funds to hire such an expert. In addition, there are no guidelines, standards, or benchmarks to judge such a retrofit. There is no sheriff nor expert in town. There's no money either. The board is all volunteer with no budget. The health department is short-staffed and subsidized by general county funds. So here's an eye-popping look at other big water users. And as you can see, we estimate that these industries alone freely pump around 12 billion, that's billion with a B, gallons per year. There are over 700 other private wells in Shelby County not counted here. These industries and these private wells are not metered. Unlike you and I, these water users do not pay for the water they use, nor in some cases do they care about saving a gallon or two for future users. So we have a great quantity of water beneath us. It's abundant, but it's not forever. In fact, here's an interactive map of the general conditions of our aquifers and our aquifer neighbors. According to this science and the work of the United States Geological Survey, the Memphis sand aquifer is 120 feet lower in 2010 than it was when we started pumping it. For an aquifer with 2,000-year-old water, this is a blink of time. If we are not careful, we will exhaust our drinking water. Or pollute it. That's our problem with the Byhalia pipeline. Memphis is dotted with contamination from a century's worth of bad decisions and poor management. We will have to clean many of these sites. We do not need to permit another. The City Council is currently pushing an ordinance through to make pipeline companies seek approval of council before any digging starts. The County Commission is just waking to its role as sheriff. Ordinances crafted in 1987 give them the, quote, power, duty, and responsibility to secure, protect, and preserve the quantity and quality of the groundwater within Shelby County, end quote. We've made that our job for the past 4 years. We know that water will be more precious in the next century. We are headed into a world battered by erratic weather, freezes and floods, and dwindling resources, depleted aquifers, and expected droughts. To secure, protect, and preserve our great gift here in Shelby County compels all of us to do what we can to save a gallon and keep it clean. Generations of our descendants are depending upon our success.